Alright guys, welcome back. Let's pick up where we left off. So we had four major steps we needed to accomplish. Power from the fuse, heating element across the clock spring, relocate the thermistor wires, and then developing some way of turning the heated wheel on and off. So let's get into turning the heat on and off. If we recall, the S550 turns the heated steering wheel on and off by means of the digital display in the center console. So there's no physical button we can use, and we are not going to convert, or at least I'm not for now, going to try to transplant the S550 center console screen into the S197. So we need to find a way to utilize some sort of switch or button that, in my opinion, should be inconspicuous for turning the heat on and off. And if you recall correctly, I opted for repurposing the paddle shifters to turn the heating element on and off. The other thing is, I want to make sure that I have a way of actually determining whether or not the system is on, regardless of whether or not I can feel the heat, right? First and foremost, you're not going to feel the heat immediately when you turn it on. But there should always be some sort of an indicator that the system is currently receiving power. Even the heated seats in the stock S197 have a little red LED on the system for indicating that. So we're going to have to figure that out as well. So as always, I like to design my system on the computer before I try to put it into practice. So let's go through this design I've come up with. So what you see here is a lot going on, but I want you to just kind of focus on a couple key parts. Here is my steering wheel. Over here in the center is my clock spring. And then off the right here is pretty much going to be my own makeshift heated steering wheel control module. Kind of a replacement for the S550 heated steering wheel control module. So let me explain to you guys how this works. So this over here converts any momentary switch into a toggle switch. Remember, your paddle shifts, when you pull on them or press them, they are momentarily pressed, but as soon as you let go, they release. That works for something like, you're shifting because you only momentarily want to go up or go down. You don't have to hold it. But the heated steering wheel, we want it to turn on and stay on. So this blue board pretty much allows for that. You have a power that powers the board. And then right here, it basically says any power coming in here, when I press my switch one time, it's going to allow that power to pass out through this one over here, the common. Then this green board to the left here actually allows you to set and control temperature bounds by which power flows in and out of this unit. So very, very simple. Once again, I have my 12 volt plus and my ground, which power the board itself. And then the way it operates is when I provide power to this and my temperature is, within whatever or outside of whatever boundaries I set on this, it will allow power to come, any power going into K1, it will allow it to pass out of K0. So that is, in essence, how this is going to work. So there's two major things we want to start with. The power that goes to this initial board here, we want that only to be functional when the accessory or run is on. I don't want my heated steering wheel to accidentally be turned on or left on when my car is turned off. So what's going to happen is whenever I turn the car off, it's going to kill the power to the blue board, which kills the power to everything, which is perfect. It does not allow the power to pass through here. In addition to that, what I then do is I allow the always on power to pass over to here, which is going to do two things. It's going to power the board itself, and it's going to be the power that gets passed over to the heated steering wheel. So that's what this little jumper is here, is for over here. So let's think about this, right? I push this button, which is my test button for this. if I have this plugged in and the car is turned on, it's going to allow the power to pass through here. It's going to turn my board on. My board is currently set with certain boundaries of temperature. And let's say I'm below the maximum temperature I want to run at. It's going to turn it on, allow the power to pass from here through here. And that power is going to go to my, I believe this is C218C. That's going to pass through the clock spring to C218D. And then that's going to come over here over to the steering wheel. It's going to come back through the ground, right? That's going to return back through my same ones here. And then that's going to go pass out the board and over to the ground in the car. Now, I said doing the test. What I set up over here is, and you can follow these back this way, these are the traces that go through the clock spring that go over to my paddle shifters. So the way the paddle shifters work is there's an up button, a down button, and a shared return. So if you notice, the gray line here is my shared return. That goes through the clock spring and comes back around here and works as my return. What I've opted to do is take my blue line as well as my green line here. And if you notice, you follow them across here, you cross over the clock spring, you come along here, and you come down. I combine them together here. That pretty much just allows both buttons, the minus and the plus, to function exactly the same. So that solves my button, right? That solves my ability to turn it on and off. Oh, one last thing, or one other thing I wanted to call out is I forgot to mention this pink line and this blue line. This is for a thermistor. So remember I said this allows it to operate within a temperature bound of, let's say, 38 degrees Celsius and 40 degrees Celsius is where you want the steering wheel to hover between. Well, that right here comes to the thermistor. Now, the reason you see this way outside of the clock spring is because, as I mentioned in the previous video, that I've run out of lines within the clock spring to use. So this is going to go through that extra ribbon cable that I set up, and it's going to plug directly into the steering wheel. Okay? So that solves my switches, it solves my ability to measure temperature, and it pretty much will allow it to work. But there's one catch. Remember I mentioned, I need to find a way to indicate whether or not my heat is on. Well, I thought about this, and I actually came up with what I think is a pretty cool idea. In the paddle switches, the plus symbol and the minus symbol up here, those are actually LEDs that you can see at night. And I'm so thankful that Ford did that, because what I decided to do was say, you know what? I'm only going to provide power to those LEDs when the heated steering wheel is turned on. So if you see here, I tap off of my power line and I go into this pin on each of these, which is the left and the right respectively, and then my ground comes back, and my ground is shared with the same line that powers my heating element. So that allows me to have a visual representation. My heat is on because that little light is on. So it's a cool little function. Again, at night the intent is that at night when the car, the lights are on in the car, unless the heated steering wheel is on, those lights are going to be off. And so then when you turn it on, those lights will light up. So we'll see. That's the intent. This is going to be the plan, guys. And I look forward to taking you through some of the next videos as I test this crazy schematic out. Thank you very much. I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.